We are Group D, and we'll be presenting Big Sky Brewing Company's final recommendations. My name is Megan.
This is Jody.
This is Anita.
This is Brandon.
And I'm Pete Charbonneau.
And we're going to start with going over the strategic options. Next. So the first strategic option that we are faced with, which is one of the most evident ones, is in-house bottling for Big Sky. So they currently have a low capacity to fill bottle sales, and they aren't able to currently meet their market demand, particularly during their peak months of June, July, and August. In addition to that, their projected bottle sales could increase as much as 80% of their total sales, so they kind of had to come up with a solution here so that they could meet their demand and increase their sales. So the first option, like I said, was bringing bottling activities in-house. So by doing this, they would discontinue outsourcing of their bottling activities, because their sales volume reached a point in which they actually, in-house bottling would afford significant economies of scale, and it would reduce their overall high per unit costs. So the idea behind this is they would create a facility, and their facility would be 30,000 square feet, and that would be with the additional 8,000 square feet that they currently have. Now, that being said, they would have to purchase production equipment, which would be $1.3 million of their brewing equipment, and it would need to be both purchased and installed into the new facility. And then in addition, when they were creating their plan, they decided to buy enough land so that they could double their building size for a new expansion whenever they decided that they wanted to expand their production. The total cost was $2.6 million, and this is broken into a couple different segments. So the first segment is $350,000 from an equity infusion, and $2.2 million from the USDA RBP BP Business and Industry Guaranteed Loan, another $150,000 from Missouri Area Economic Development Corporation loan, and then the final $100,000 was from their own personal cash reserves. Next. Their second option was to remain in their current contract. So that being said, it would significantly limit their production abilities, and they wouldn't necessarily be able to meet their current demand if they remained with their current contract. So they also need to keep in mind that they have significant limitations on their current contract. For example, they have an 18,000 barrel maximum production contract with PBC, and there are a couple of things that impact this contract and that they have to be held to. So one, the orders need to be placed a minimum of 6 weeks in advance, allowed access to the bottling line every third week. They need to have minimum orders of 1,750 cases. They also require biweekly visits to Portland by one or more of Big Sky Management's team. And they also need to have 1 to 2 team members travel to PBC every second week at the cost of $1,000 per manager, in addition to the lost work time during travel to and from PBC. So this is an additional expense that they actually wouldn't be incurring if they created their own production facility, but are currently incurring given their contract. So they spoke specifically within the case about how their current contract does not have much flexibility, and the high amounts of travel is very difficult on not only the company as a whole, but even the individual employees. Some additional constraints that they were facing is kind of regards to accounts payable and their inventory handling costs. So their current contract with PBC stipulates payment terms of net 20. And so this essentially means pay for all the bottled beer orders within 20 days of production. And then their contract with their suppliers for in-house brewing calls for payment in terms of net 30. So that gives them 10 extra days of production. And then they also have to pay penalties for PBC for the long-term storage of their products. So let's say their products aren't being sold, or they just need to store their products for whatever reason, they have to pay penalties for that. And so this is their current situation and an option for them to pursue if they decide they want to go down this route. Next slide. And the last option is to develop a new contract. This was the least fleshed out option. So the idea of a new contract would be completely abandoning their current contract and starting up a new one. That being said, because there isn't much information on this, it doesn't really seem like a viable source. There's a potential to pair up with a competitor, and that could be utilizing their production facilities or becoming a joint company with another group, but I know that they had intentions of keeping a lot of their own companies. So I don't know if that was something that really in their strategic plan. And then they could also find a new source, but most contracts have similar constraints on them. So we don't know how effective that would be for their actual company itself. And there are some other drawbacks to finding a new contract. So we know the quality that they're currently producing at. There could be a quality dip. Their quality could potentially decrease if they're getting a better deal on the contract, or if it's just a further commute for the production facility, that sort of thing. Inconsistency with bottling, this kind of goes with the quality dip, is that the bottling could fall through and it could be less consistent in comparison to how the last one was, as well as they're producing it, it could impact the schedule if the new facility is not on par with their current schedule. And then finally, if they need more capacity for future growth, they're still held into a contract. So there is the potential there that the growth is further limited in the future, even if they currently are able to meet their demand with a new contract. And now we will have Jody and Anita go over the best strategic option out of all of these.
To justify our strategic option of bringing bottling in-house, we're going to examine some of the analysis that we've performed throughout the case study. And looking at the external analysis, and specifically the pestle analysis, if we look at the technological environment of the company, bringing the bottling in-house, Big Sky is going to be able to bring in the latest bottling technology that there is. They're going to be able to look at storage and preservation of the bottled beer, and also the cleaning of the pipes. They'll be able to bring in the latest technology for that. And looking at the political and legal environment, there are a lot of rules, regulations in production of beer, but they're also going to have to look at distributing the beer from state to state. In internal analysis, bottling the beer will become a core competency. They'll be like their other competitors. And in the value chain analysis, we identified the center of gravity as production. This further reinforces production as bottling will be in the production stage. And looking at business level strategy, their generic strategy will remain focused differentiation and that local Montana image. And then looking at tactics, the timing tactic, they are a late mover in this, and that all their other competitors are bottling. However, there is an advantage to being a late mover in this regard. They're able to look at mistakes or maybe not the best decisions that other companies made and learn from that as they take on this strategic option. And then offensive tactics, we've got the frontal assault. So they're beginning to match what their other competitors are doing. And then encirclement and doing what others don't, they'll continue with producing kegs as they do. And their merchandising is a big part of their revenue that their other competitors do not have. And Anita will further analyze our strategic option.
Thanks, Jody. So I'm going to take a look at their corporate level strategy and their functional level strategy, and how that relates to their decision to move bottling in-house. So first, with corporate level strategy, considering the portfolio strategy, so Boston Consulting Group's growth share matrix is really the best way to portray the organization's portfolio of investment. So Big Sky Brewing Company kegs continue to remain their cash cow, while bottled beer is their rising star, knowing that they have pent-up demand that's not already realized with Portland's bottling efforts. This demand will drive market growth for their bottled beer category in the future. The second, directional strategy, there are some growth strategies I need to discuss. First, organic growth has been the mainstay for them with their continued performance in existing products in their marketplace, be it kegs to retail merchandise to bottled. So they also have vertical growth up the value chain is going to be their direction for the future. It's going to be taking over the business of the bottling from Portland and pulling that in-house. And finally, related diversification. So with maturity in the business, diversification strategies are super important. focusing on their distinctive competency of the Montana cult brand. Their movement from kegs to merchandise to bottling is a natural progression. So second, their functional strategy. So several functional level strategies come into play as they move forward. First, there are a couple of things in marketing. So moving from product development with their innovation and enticing customers to market development, where they would continue to create strong brand awareness, as well as maximizing their Costco, grocery, and multi-state businesses, will continue to push them into market development. An additional market strategy is the use of the push strategy, working through their distributors network to help expand their retail presence. So moving from an equity financing environment to a debt environment is daunting, but their pent-up demand is reassuring that they will succeed. And finally, from a human resources perspective, as their outsourcing goes away and they bring bottling in-house, they're going to be able to control production quantities, costing, invoicing, and most importantly for them, the quality, so that they can get their desired results. So I'm going to now turn this over to Brannon, who is going to be discussing the strategy implementation.
Thank you, Anita. A company's organizational structure plays a vital part in determining the efficiency of its operation and the productivity of its employees. For Big Sky, although it involves a bit more complexity, the benefits of a matrix organizational structure make it worth the implementation efforts. One of the primary benefits of a matrix organizational structure is that it would allow Big Sky to have better communication across different departments and divisions. For Big Sky, there is a lot of communication across departments because there are more collaborative projects that involve multiple departments. The ease of communication in matrix structures keeps employees more informed and puts them in a position to generate better decisions and direction. Big Sky best resource is its employees. The matrix structure is centered on bringing the best together to address a specific problem. A matrix structure for Big Sky can be exceptionally good at focusing staff collectively on a unified mission, vision, and purpose. And our research shows that matrix organizations tend to be very engaging. Clearly, the matrix structure itself would not make Big Sky more functional, focused, or adaptable. To get the most out of using a matrix structure, Big Sky needs a culture that can handle the magnitude of change a suggested matrix approach brings.
Measuring success through the establishment of performance metrics and goals is imperative in any project. In this project in particular, Big Sky can utilize input controls, behavior controls, and output controls to measure the degree to which this new project is meeting its goals. Input controls and behavior controls are either not an option or already in place. For instance, we know that Big Sky already has a very positive workplace environment, very happy staff. They've only lost one employee over the last decade. And in this instance, we believe that output controls, which utilize the project management fundamentals such as cost, schedule, and performance, are the most effective controls that can be used in this instance. These controls focus on the end result. Will this new capability meet Big Sky's long-term projected demand? And in this case, we believe it will. Thank you very much for watching our presentation. Have a great day.